Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Monday morning where, yes, he is back in all his glory, grumpy as can be. Grumpy's in the house. And yes, what a brutal day yesterday was in many ways, but especially Liverpool ways. But the Prince is here to cheer us all up.
I'm not doing anything of the sort. I'm not cheering anyone up today. And I just realized I'm wearing blue. I didn't really plan for that to happen, so that's not a good look either. But here we are, and I'm not going to go change now.
I mean, that's not like Everton blue though. That's more like
No, it's closer. It's not city blue. It's just blue. It
yeah,
should
it's
be
closer
blue.
to the city blue, which is it's not a good look. That's for
No,
sure. Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, if you want to like do a wardrobe change. Chris is in the house. Good morning. Yeah, it was. We're literally. I put it in the title as well. Like we're literally finding new ways to lose games at this point, and I don't even know if you can. I don't know, man. It was kind of weird because I know it looked on paper in very similar to the Arsenal game. What was that? Week 3, week 4, whatever the hell that was. You get like that late, right about the same time, Szoboszlai goal. But I thought this was different in many ways. One, you can see the psychology difference where we start shaking a bit more and lose our confidence and we concede goals. But aside from that, I thought we played, especially, I mean, definitely not the first half, but the second half, I thought we played extremely well. Where it was like, if that game ends 0-0, I know, you still fall behind them points in Champions League standings, blah, blah, blah. But I think, we leave with that was pretty darn good mode. So, like, leaving like this and the comedy that happened at the end, which makes things even freaking worse than losing, it's frustrating, man. That's probably the best I can see. It is frustrating as hell.
From the highest of highs with the free kick to then the lowest of lows when that whistle blows at the end, like within a 15-20 minute
Yeah.
stretch. I mean, that is, I think this word has been used a lot, is the microcosm of the season that we've seen, right? I think the entire season has been boiled down to those last 20 minutes where you have a single moment of brilliance, an individual moment of brilliance from someone, and then just a total team lapse into more team laps, into more team laps. And
Yes.
then the whistle blows, and you're like, me. I mean, like it was. I hate to say that it was almost expected. Like once Bernardo Silva tied it, I know I had the feeling like City's gonna win. They're just
Yeah.
it felt like there was too much pressure and Liverpool were allowing them to have all of this possession. And I think that's the issue, is that they allowed this to happen, right? Instead of kind of just putting the foot on the gas a little bit more and maybe just being more proactive in possession and wanting to actually take it towards City. Like I think, maybe making a substitution like Chiesa Rio a little bit earlier to just keep driving at the defenders rather than kind of allow the pressure to come towards you. It could have changed the last 10 minutes or so. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate end to a season that we've seen. Like you're saying, if this was week, if this was the Arsenal week, that game, it ends 1-0.
Yeah.
But now that this team has been through so much of the same script, it feels like there wasn't even when that free kick went in the back of my head, I was like, this game is far from over.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing. I'm like, because it was almost like it came a bit early. But I think the difference is it wasn't like, no, I agree. I mean, Chris says as well that goal should have been a winner. Best free kick I've ever seen in years. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird that we can compare it to something he did like freaking like 4 or 5 months ago against like Arsenal and stuff, because I thought that was some kick as well. But I felt it was different in terms of it wasn't just like, you were playing poorly and it wasn't going to be like a, smash and grab kind of a deal, right? Because we played really well. You created and you kind of almost felt like a reward for everything you did in the second half when the goal happened. It wasn't even like, oh, we did not have that coming at all kind of a thing. And that's why I find that even more disappointing. If the whole game goes like the first half, you could at least say, yeah, we're nowhere near it. And take the loss and be like, yeah, we're lucky it was only by one. We almost like, did the smash and grab kind of a deal. But I just don't that's the frustrating part, man. I was very, very happy with the second half. And I think part of it is the same reason that you think the moment it becomes 1-1, because I felt the same way. I'm like, let's hang on to. I remember I even told Angel, I'm like, well, let's just at least hang on to this. So because you have something to hang your hat on after the game. But no, I mean, it's like they felt the same way. It looks like shaky legs. I don't know what Ali is doing, like going out like that. I hate the rule. First of all, let's get that out of the way. It's the stupidest rule because referees see through that bullshit sometimes when it's on the sideline where a player that kicks it, you're like, you were not going anywhere. No, it's a throw-in kind of a deal, right? But in the box, it's a whole different thing. I hate the rule, but I don't know what Ali is doing, even to kind of like even create the opportunity to give that penalty kick away. And it's, yeah, man, that's like probably the frustrating part is it seems like a mentality thing. But I'll ask you that, like, is it because obviously, if you were already like, gonna get on the manager for this, you're like, you blame the manager for that. Is it the manager? Because everybody's like, oh, because that's how he plays. I just felt it's more like it's a psychological thing where the team was. I mean, we see this against other teams when we play in Anfield and stuff, right? The last 5-10 minutes, psychologically, you kind of like suck back a little bit more, especially if you have the lead. You do what we call in the NFL, like prevent defense, if you will, and like just do damage control, everything in front of us kind of a thing. Do you think it's the players' mentality / psychology kind of a thing? Or do you think it is coming for the manager where, it's, all game we played designed on countering. So you're like, okay, more of the same.
It's difficult to sit here and say that it has to be one or the other. I know that, I'm famous for the little bit of both cop out here, but I think you really have to boil it down to both the manager and the players. There's no one party exclusively at fault in this situation. Psychologically, when you've gone through the last 3-4 months of matches like this, where you've only won six league matches, right? Since pretty much since September, really, right? You have that in the back of your head always. And that part's on the players because it seeps in there and it's sometimes hard to get rid of. It's sort of like a disease that slowly spreads and infects everywhere. And by the time you figure out the right antidote, right, it's already too far gone. It's already covering way too much. On the same token, though, when you flip the coin over to the manager too, you can look at the last 15 minutes and go, well, maybe there could have been some other changes made that would have helped shore up whatever it is that we had to shore up at that moment, whether it was emotionally, whether it was tactically, whether it was positionally. There were probably some things that could have been done, some sort of instructions that could have been made that then didn't allow that essentially capitulation to happen again. So I think it's hard because you want to give, as fans, we should want to give the benefit of the doubt to everyone as much as we can, but it's just frustrating to see that happening so often. Because if it's a one-time thing, this is a much different conversation this morning. But now this is a weekly thing almost that we're talking about how this team cannot finish games well. And at some point, something has to change. And usually you can't change 16, 17 guys. So you're going to change the one guy that you think should be the one changing it. So
is it due to, okay, it's not due to him, I guess, in some ways. I don't think it's like, I don't agree that it's like, oh, let's defend now, we got the lead, because you would think you would not make the same mistake, I don't know, like 10 times or whatever the hell it is, right? So I can kind of understand that. I mean, like Chris says, Ibu, and that was the thing, that matchup suddenly switched and it went to Ibu and Hollins. And that's more like on Dom, I think, more than anything else, honestly. I don't blame Ali for that one. Definitely blame him on the penalty. But that one was more about Dom not being a right back and kind of getting caught watching the ball, and he's the one that's like messing up the line. Otherwise, you're going to be, otherwise he's probably off. It looked like he would be off. But I go back to, it's like the players more about like the mentality to defend first once they have the lead and like, okay, let's just finish this. But you would think after doing it over and over again, they would change that first of all, because you're like, we can't keep it, so let's just keep attacking kind of a deal. But I think the human psychology works differently. But I was like looking at it. I mean, we're talking about, Chiesa coming in and Rio coming in, because honestly, even after like 65, 70, it looked like Ekitike was pretty much mostly done, right? And I feel like sometimes it's the lack of options we have, and this is where the depth is kind of biting us in the ass. And I think if you're able to stay fresher, they were able to keep putting in quality, fresh legs. We didn't. I mean, I don't. When did we have to even make the freaking first sub? It was like 80s, wasn't it?
It was.
So yeah, we just don't. You can argue the guys are there, but if the manager does not treat them, are they really there? They're not.
I guess that's the other part of what I was saying, is that yes, you can make the changes, but then the other part of it is, what changes do you make? Because if there isn't the availability of the players that will make a difference on the pitch to make the change, then you can't make the change, right? Because it's not going to do anything. And you look at the names that were on the bench, and there's not a whole lot there outside of maybe, like, I know last year we saw Endo a lot to close out games. And, maybe we could have seen that a little bit earlier, maybe after the goal went in. Maybe we bring Endo on and kind of then help shore up the back a little bit more, like he did last year. But aside from that, like going back to Rio and Chiesa, maybe, just taking the ball at their defenders to keep City from continuously having pressure on your side of the pitch. There really wasn't anyone else that could influence the game, because if you bring Jones on, you're taking off one of the midfielders, right? So it's not like he's coming in to change the game that much. So yeah, it's you hate to say that there's a lack of options after spending 400 million in a window, but when you think about which players that was spent on and what you're still missing, there is a lot to be left. There are a lot of positions left that didn't really get as much attention that should have, because of all the shiny new toys in the other positions.
And you honestly couldn't play. You played 2 out of the 5 that you signed. And I don't know if Leone would have played anyway, but you didn't have Frimpong out there, which you could definitely have used, because you could have used the right back, first of all, or you can use some speed. And I thought Szoboszlai did well. I mean, his mistake in that goal is obviously a guy playing out of position kind of mistake. Not that, you haven't seen like Robo or Trent or whatever make that mistake in the past too. I mean, getting caught ball watching is not like very new to the sport or anything like that. But you would, I think, when you see Szoboszlai doing it, you assume if there was a right back, he would be lined up with the center backs, and he would not just like get called like watching the cross coming in and stuff. But Ryan says it's been a long time. I don't remember in the slider us seeing a game out with attacking. I don't think it was ever our style, right? Like, but at least it was about control. We had the ball. Even if we're not attacking, we had possession, and we struggled keeping possession. And I mean, he even mentioned this before the game, that, in most cases, more than likely, honestly, like in first half, I think it was like the 25th or 30th minutes, they put out the numbers. It was like 66%, but it definitely felt like 80-20 at the time. They said 66-34, but I was like, really? Because it feels a lot worse than that in terms of possession. So you knew we were going to be okay with having City keep the possession. And I thought in the second half, especially when we did let him have it, we played the counter ball well. Some really weird decision making by Ali several times in that game. I think he tried that long kick, and I don't know if this was something that they talked about. Hey, we're gonna do this, but he tried it probably 5-6 times. I can only recall one instance where we, got dangerous off of it. Everything else was giving the ball right back to Donnarumma. We're like, okay, we had just gotten the possession back, and we go back again. And I don't think that's coming from Slot. I think that's just Ali seeing something. I mean, it might be like, hey, if you see it, do it. But obviously, you got to execute afterwards. I felt like in the first half, we gave away the ball like very needlessly several times to the point where it looked like this is not going anywhere good, anywhere, anytime fast.
It's like me telling one of my freshman kids, look, if you get an open three, they give it to you, take it. And then him taking that as, oh, I'm gonna shoot every time I touch the ball. Right? Like that's how I could see that alley conversation going. Like, okay, I'm able to do this if I see it. In my head now, I see it every single time. Right. And that's just what happens. So yeah, and I think obviously Ekitike missed the sitter that you just throw your hands up and go, I mean, fine, fair. He's allowed to miss sometimes, right? And then you had Gakpo was offside, so it didn't really matter, but he missed the one in front of the net as well. And I think Ekitike then missed a great run from Wirtz, that ball that Salah played with the outside of his boot. That was really nice. I think if Ekitike plays Wirtz on the right side, that's wide open, then maybe that changes the game a little bit too, because he never even looked at that side. It's not like he ignored that side. He just didn't look towards that side. So yeah, the little moments like that really changed the game. And it's hard to sit here and talk about the good that we saw when you see it end like that, because there was good, but now there is no good to essentially talk about because everyone's just pissed again.
Chris says they kept going. Actually, I'm just going like this. The long kick was designed to keep City from what they did. And yeah, it does keep them on their toes. I agree to that. But one, well, obviously you got to execute it a lot better. And two, maybe you needed more runners to do that, or maybe you didn't have the legs for people to do that run afterwards of defending for like 5 minutes straight. And I thought we defended really well. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we did not give. There was that early on one with Holland 2 minutes in, and it felt like, oh God, this is going to be a long day kind of a deal. But after that, once we settled in, you did not let them create out of possession. I even said, I think on Discord, if this game was the other way around at halftime, people will be talking a lot of shit, saying, oh, all that possession, but we couldn't create anything and stuff. Because it felt like that kind of game, right? It kind of like a game where us against Burnley or something like that. All possession, nothing to show for it. The ball moving constantly, but you're not creating anything. Oh, they really set that back well. They are defending well and stuff. Their shape. So it felt like that. And then the second half begins. You suddenly see this team like a different team. So I'll ask you that, like, what changed? Because Scotty was asking about, like, if we blame Slot for anything that happened yesterday, what changed that that team came out very different in the second half?
Yeah, I mean they changed tactically what they were doing from the first half, and then decided it was, again, I think it was it Arsenal? Maybe it was a couple weeks ago, where they sat back the entire first half and absorbed a lot of pressure, kind of almost to Arteta's surprise of, this team wasn't gonna come out and play on the ball as much as he thought that maybe they were. And then in the second half, they came out differently. So that could be a design thing where you come in, you take in a lot of pressure. If you go into the half 0-0, you come out and then you start the second half with the secondary game plan, if you will, the second half game plan, where then you take maybe the energy you conserved in the first half. I'm just making things up at this point, but that's like what I can see is that by design, you take a lot of pressure in that first half to then be able to flip it in the second half and take a lot of that energy, momentum, trying to build up on that momentum to go, especially towards the Kop end. Because I feel like that's just naturally what we end up seeing as fans, is we love going towards that side of the pitch and getting that energy, getting the momentum from going that direction. So I think just there are signs where it feels like you have a really competent manager, because if he wasn't a good manager, we wouldn't have seen a difference from the first half to the second half. And I know that there have been plenty of moments where we've seen the same performance throughout the match, but in big games like this, like you really want to see some difference out there. And being able to see that I think is a positive sign. I don't think it's not positive enough, obviously, for people to want him to stay, but I'd much rather see that than see the same thing over and over from first to second half.
To play the devil's advocate, though, why would you like? Because I agree. I feel like that's by design. We do this thing where we stop first and then go after them, kind of a deal. I guess my thing is, in a time when your squad is limited and you're going to tire out before the other team, even if all things are equal, defending is more, maybe it's physically less running at times. It's more probably mentally tiring than physically tiring, but it's definitely mentally tiring because as an attacker, you know where you're going to go. I don't. There's like 3 different things I'm worried about, and then you do this, I gotta react and stuff like that. So it's a lot more. And we were doing a lot of chasing around, especially the guys up top. I think it's a lot more tiring running wise for the Ikitikes, Virts of the world, where they're chasing the ball around as they move it from like center back to center back or whatever. Maybe it's like a bit more energy conserving in the back line. But aren't you kind of like shooting yourself on the foot by doing that? Because now the second half, when you got going, I don't know, like I say, 65, 70 minutes into it, you could kind of tell off the ball there, like we were starting to drop. Like Ekitike was not the same Ekitike, Virts was not the same Virts, and you did not have another piece to put in to do the same exact thing and give you the same exact, I guess, threats in that sense.
Yeah, but I guess that's when you try and find the goal before the 70th minute, right? I mean, that's you kind of take the first 15, 20 minutes of that second half to see what you can come out with. And then you have to end up with, again, just an individual moment of brilliance from Sobo. So, because I think it's more difficult, like you're saying, defensively, it's going to be a lot more difficult to defend in the last 15, 20 minutes when you consider all of the running beforehand, right? You consider the 70, 75, 80 minutes beforehand, and then mentally the last 10 minutes, the last 15 minutes, as we've seen this club have, mentally it's a very draining thing too. So, I mean, I think it makes more sense to try and defend strongly first and then try and, get what you can out of it towards the end. But nothing's going to change if mentally you're in the same place every single game. So
2024 ref, man, you're like an angry guy, by the way. I saw some of the comments online and I was like, you need you need to relax. But all it took was a BSPR video to get all the sheep back into the pen. I don't think so. I don't think that did anything except people who were probably in the middle a little bit or starting to say, yeah, because there's a lot of like slot up people. I mean, since the day he was signed up, there's a lot, I guess. But after the title, obviously, there were a lot of people switching to the other side. I felt like there were some people like going back and maybe saying like, okay, let's see what's going to happen over here. Maybe it's time for a change, blah, blah, blah. And when the video came out, I felt like those people were told, hey, it's not coming anytime soon. So you better get behind the team. And I think that's all it did. People who were slot out were still slot out when we beat Newcastle or whatever. Those people are on the same. When the players fail, this is like the part that I don't understand, but I've stopped trying to understand at this point, I guess. When the players fail, it's on the manager. But when the players do well to win games, it's the players bailing out the manager. I'm just so confused with that mindset of, I'll call it thinking with quotations, because that's not really thinking. That's basically you just taking a scenario and trying to make it fit into your overall theory and stuff like that. I don't like, that's what I was thinking when I was watching the second half while it was still 0-0. I don't see a team, for all these people saying like they quit on each other, they quit on the manager and stuff like that. I just don't see a team playing like that if they had quit on the manager and stuff in the second half. Maybe I'm seeing what I want to see, but you look on the pitch and you see how it's played. How can you really say that? And this is the bullshit thing. It's not like the angrier you are, the better fan you are. That's just fucking stupid. First of all, let's get that out of the way. I'm more angrier than you. I'm more unreasonable than you. So I'm a better fan than you is the stupidest take that I can, and this is kind of like, I guess, par for the course. But like that's the terrible, terrible way to look at things. I am not happy with the state of things, but sometimes you can kind of like think in terms of without just like reacting with emotion and say, why is this happening? Instead of like, let's roll some heads kind of a deal. That is stupid. If you don't like it, you can fuck off, dude. This is me. So if you don't like it, there's an exit button over there. You can fuck off.
It's called being an adult. Honestly, the angriness that some people feel, and again, it's okay to be angry within reason, right? But to go out like some of these fans are going out and talking how some of these fans are talking, it literally feels like you guys are 12, 13 years old and haven't built the emotional intelligence yet of what it means to be a human being and having rational thinking, right? I wonder who 2024 ref was back in July when Jota passed away and what he said. Well, he said, well, fuck this team. I mean, they gotta play now, right? How they can't even take a minute to think about it. He's dead now. Well, so what? Like, is that really the thinking that you had then too? Or was it this season's going to be a very difficult season. It's going to be a tumultuous season. It's going to be a rebuilding season. It's going to be a lot of things. And you're going to have some grace for human beings going through something. But no, you're just angry for the sake of being angry because you haven't built the emotional intelligence to just kind of sit back and think critically or rationally every once in a while. So yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Keep commenting and clicking on our videos. It helps anyway. So whatever.
I guess. I mean, Chris says, I don't even agree with being angry. People who don't get into the arena don't get to throw the punches. I mean, I can understand. I don't know. Like, I was frustrated yesterday. I do feel like the only thing I'll give ref is I do feel like, sometimes I feel a bit more defeated. I am less angrier than normally I would be. I think that this season kind of like, has been like that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, see you later, man. You're still here. So you're still part of the equation over here. It's not a pushback. It's basically who's got the bigger fan dick contest that you get into is people can believe whatever they want. I mean, we got a ton of people on the channel who are slot out. We probably have more people who are slot out than slot in at this point, and I don't blame them. I understand that,
but we don't question what kind of fan they are because they hold that opinion.
Yes, exactly. And that's basically resigned. Yes, that's the word I was looking for, Chris. Thank you. Because when I watched that, that's kind of like I'd be a lot more frustrated in the past, so maybe resign, which is not a good way to be. I mean, that's not what you want, but I don't know. And it's not like I'm saying like you have to back the manager, otherwise you're not a good fan or anything like that either. But you have to still understand the big picture of things and try to figure out what's wrong or give an opinion on what's wrong, because otherwise you're just changing managers left and right. And for all those people seeing like look at Manchester United having the bounce back and stuff like that, I mean, they've changed managers over and over and over again, and clearly that's not just the recipe by itself. I feel like there are so many. Look, if everything was the same as last year, and if it was okay, let's go back. If this was last year, where it was the same squad, not a lot of changes, right? And we were doing this poorly, I would probably question more the manager, like what is he doing wrong, as opposed to all the all these other I feel like there are so many other factors that might be affecting it aside from the manager. Whereas last year you could kind of say, hey, he took Klopp's team and his tactics changing and stuff like that. He's not able to implement what he wants to do. The team is playing worse, blah, blah, blah. I feel like there's so much other things. I mean, you mentioned the Jota thing. That's like totally forgotten now. But yes, that's one big one that happened in the offseason. You get all these new players in the offseason. You get all these injuries and stuff. I feel like there are so many other factors that you can't pinpoint it on one guy. It's easier to do that. It takes a lot less thinking to do that. But I just feel like that's not really fair, but goes back to what you're saying. If somebody's you can't get rid of all the players, so if you have to make a change, you do have to change the one thing that I guess you can.
And unfortunately, I mean, I think Slot is burdened with the success from last year now, right? When you go from winning the league to what you see now, there are going to be question marks, because you look at it and go, well, obviously there's a big change from what you saw last year versus this year. But then you also feel like that as a fan of a club who just won another league title, that you would have more grace for a manager who took you there too, right? A manager that took the players that were the same under a different manager that didn't win it, right? You think that there would be a little bit more grace in that sense. And then when you, like you're saying, when you put all the other variables into it, you would think there'd be even more grace extended because of all the stuff going on. I think if what's going on right now happened last year, like the same players that were there last year, I think there would be a lot of people going, this is a rebuilding year. It's a transition year. It's different. We knew this was going to happen because this manager is not Jurgen Klopp and he needs time, right? So now, because of the success of last year, you don't get that benefit of the doubt, I guess, from a lot of these fans. You need just results. And it is a results-based business at the end of the day. I do understand that, right? I'm not going to pretend that I'm naive and don't think that results matter, because they absolutely do. There are financial ramifications for poor results.
Yes.
But there are also emotional results that we have to take into account. And I think that's ultimately what we want to see as fans is, yes, hold each other accountable, hold the players accountable, hold the manager accountable, hold everything accountable, but within reason.
Yeah, I think so too. But look, I agree to that. Deluded Steve says there's unlimited credit in the National Bank of Mateusz. Look, I mean, that credit is diminishing, right? And only because, like, my opinion on slots has not changed, but I get more and more the sentiment that something does have to change. And I don't know if better performances are enough because of the financial ramifications you're talking about. Like, you are falling, and I kind of knew. Now you have another really, really tough game. But I mean, what are you, like 5 points behind now?
Yes.
I consider top 5, by the way, is going to be enough the way things are going. You're 4 points behind off of 5th. I mean, you're tied with freaking Brentford, for God's sakes. You're only 2 points ahead of Everton over here. And you have a tough game coming up, going away to Sunderland, who will actually tie you if they win. But then the schedule does get slightly easier, at least on paper. I just don't trust this team to get 3 points from games that, they should on paper, kind of a deal. But Chris says, I think this is where I'm at. But here's the thing. And I'll do, I understand when people say, is that going to be too late? I think so too. That whole roundtable said nothing is happening anytime soon. And I don't know what would have to happen on the pitch for that to change from the round table, because this was different than them coming out and saying we're behind the manager, because that usually means, you got 2 weeks here, dude, start packing. But that was kind of different. I took that as it's going to go like this till the end of the year in the minimum. But what would have to be, like, when would you be like, okay, enough is enough, I guess we'll go? I think we talked about this maybe like a couple of months ago when it was really, really bad. Then we got some draws, a couple of wins here and there and stuff like that. But when do you say, okay, it's not happening, dude, nice knowing you? When is the credit done at the Bank of Mateusz?
There's not that much credit. I just think that fans should give him a little bit more credit than they have been giving him. I think the credit needs to be balance in the credit. I do still believe that he gets his shot at the Champions League. I think that he gets the course of that competition. Now, I don't necessarily think that if he wins the Champions League, he's going to stay. But I think I don't know. It's a weird thing, because at this point, with how toxic it has become with the fan base too, and I think we talked about this, it seems like a lose-lose situation, that there isn't much left for him to do to change the minds of those who do not want him here. And there isn't enough for him to do for those that are still, he's the manager. I'm happy to keep him. there's not enough for him to do now that's going to change those minds either. I feel like we're just in that weird spot now where it's just we see the last 2.5, 3 months, and that's it. I just don't see a benefit in changing managers at any point in the next 2.5 months. So you give him the Champions League, and then you go from there.
I mean, if he wins the Champions League, I know what you're saying, but God, man, I mean, how would you fire a manager who won the Premier League and Champions League back to back? I think that's when you tell the fans, here's a parade. Shut the hell up. This guy is staying.
Yeah,
and here's the thing. All these angry fans who are better fans because they're angry would not be as angry during the parade. And if we win the Champions League.
I don't know, they might be holding up signs saying slot out in the parade. I mean, I'm not even joking. I feel like that would still happen. There's nothing that he's been able to do in the last 3 months that has convinced anyone that is already slot out about anything else other than them being slot out. The decision has been made for 99% of fans, I think. And at least
really, you think it's that high? I mean, when you started the number, I was like, really, like in the 90s? I was like,
no. For those who are slot out, 99% of them, they're not changing their minds.
Okay.
Right. I think that's where I'm headed. Is that for those who are slot out, there's nothing that man can do anymore that will change their minds. That's where I'm at. I truly, and whoever is slot out in the comments, like if you tell me now you are slot out, if he wins the Champions League, and this is a huge if, guys. We're not sitting here going, we're winning the Champions League. There's nothing that we're saying. We're just saying it's an if. It's always hypothetical. Like if you are slot out and this team does win the Champions League, do you extend that leash or are you still done? That's my question.
I think there's no way you cannot, dude. You would have to put your tail between the legs and come off to the other side. I really think so. Because, how do you fire a manager or how do you justify firing a manager that won the Premier League and Champions League back to back? I mean, I don't think and I do think this team, just seeing that second half should tell you that there's definitely a possibility that this team can go really, really deep in the Champions League because the potential is there. And by the time where shit hits the fan, you might start seeing Isak back. Depends on how healthy we're going to be. Saida says we're not deep enough, and I do see what he means, but I think this team has the potential to go really deep over here. Hold on, I want to get to something Paul was saying. The greatest lesson for the season is money is getting away from transfer hype that agents and talking heads promote for, and clicks isn't necessarily a guarantee of dynamic improvement of a game that relies on a cohesive team. I think the fact that it takes time. I mean, you have to do a change, right? Like, and you could have done it slower, perhaps, like what you're doing instead of 5-6 players at a time. You could have done a couple of players a window, but I think it's more about you see the opportunity and you kind of like move on with it. I think the fact that the Champions League football is different, it's only going to be when I think we meet a few teams. I think the Champions League is going to be a challenge. So I do think we advance deep in Champions League. I predicted we're going to win it, and I'm not backing up from that now. So we're winning it either freaking way. But going back to what Paul was saying, I think it's more, yeah, exactly. See, the guarantee, that's what you get over here. We get guarantees. We're not angry, but we give guarantees. So I don't know. I know what Paul is saying, but I feel like you have to make changes, and they did bring in quality. I think the thing is you have to understand that just money is not going to do it. It takes time as well.
Yeah, but how much time, I think, is the question that needs to be asked to those who are in support of him leaving or staying, right? Like what is the graph between money spent and time given, right? Because we've seen a project like Chelsea where money spent is here and time given is all the way down here.
Fair. Yeah.
Right. And so you have to see where do both of those, where do the axes lie in both of those, in both of those lines, right? And so I think when you spend X amount, there has to be X amount of time given. I don't know. There is no perfect recipe for that, but because each situation is unique in its own right. So that's the only thing that I don't really know what the answer is how much time do you give for the amount of money that's spent? Because when you have so much turnover from a cohesive team, let's be honest, from players who were together for a while, even though some of those players were not maybe up to the standard that we would have liked to see them at this club, they were still as a unit cohesively there. So it's hard to know then how much time you give this next unit, this next iteration before you go, okay, this project isn't working. So that's the thing I can't answer.
And I think that's the worst thing Slot has done is probably win the title last year.
That's what I'm saying. It's unfortunately his undoing is his success.
Yeah.
Because you set the bar so high and then you spend 400 million plus in a summer and you sit there and every single person sitting there going, wow, they spent all this money on top of winning the league. They should run this league.
And not only winning the league,
undefeated.
Like running with the league already, right?
They should be undefeated. They shouldn't lose a single match. They should win every single match, win every single competition. They should win the quad, even though no team has ever done it before. And that's the problem.
That sounds more like the United cycle, doesn't it? The 3 seasons. But I think, yeah.
So Klopp got 3 cycles, three FSG cycles.
He didn't spend those sanctions. No, and that's another thing, but I'm okay with that. I mean, that's kind of like the job he agreed to. I'm not going to give him, see, that's totally different. I'm not going to give him a pass and say, well, he doesn't decide, because that's what he agreed to. That's what his deal is. So he's going to have to take the good with the bad. He might not have wanted, I mean, he would have definitely wanted reinforcements, I would think, this window, for example, or he might have wanted somebody to replace Diaz and was told, well, we're not going to block Rio or whatever, but that's part of like the thing he has to deal with. Chris does have a good point. If we did it slower, you kind of lose like the main core of like Mo, Verge and Ali before everything else happens, kind of a deal. So that's fair. But see, no, Chris, because we've been told if you're not angry, you're not a fan. So you better get angry or turn in your fan card over here, because that's what we learned this morning. Roshan says you measure through identity even when a side is struggling. If they show cohesion and fights and identify patterns of play. See, that's, I think, a valid question. See, you can be on the other side and actually make sensical arguments, as opposed to saying, you know, if you're not angry, you're not a fan, like that bozo earlier. But yeah, get angry, my friend, or turn your freaking card in. Okay, press the button and turn your card in. But yeah, what do you say to Roshi? Because I think that's a good point. When I watch, but I feel like it's in the works, and the fact that we're seeing it more and more over the last month tells me it's brewing. Like I can smell it, you know, like what's cooking down there. And you are seeing it here and there a little bit, but not enough to be consistent. And in fairness to Slot in that sense, because of the injuries, you have not been able to try out the same 11. Like you have not been able to use Frimpong where you want Frimpong and stuff to say, yep, it's coming, it's working.
I think that was going to be my comment on that, is that, do you genuinely have enough availability from the players to get a good sense of what it is that he wants out of them? You know, and unfortunately we're in February still asking this question, which is, you know, you never like to be in that position where come February, you've been seeing these players since August, September, and you're still asking yourself, what really is the idea, right? And we always go back to, what did Slot promise Wirtz at the beginning of the summer window that made him choose this club over Bayern Munich, for example? Because there was something in that pitch that made sense to Wirtz. That was, this is the place. This is where I want to play. This is who I want to play under, right? Because that's the manager that he was meeting with. This is who he wants to play for. And we never really got a chance to see that in the first several months because of maybe availability of guys like Isak, for example, and Ekitike being out for a bit. And now we're in February and we're struggling a lot with seeing the availability still on the pitch. So there maybe hasn't been a chance to really get a good idea of what we've truly wanted him to do because of who's available. So yeah, I think ideally what I think is the goal is to play more narrowly through the midfield and having someone like Wirtz be able to pull the strings and open up, and then to go out wide to feed, like from Wirtz from the middle to go out wide to feed, then Ekitike and Isak up front. I think that's sort of the pattern that he wants to see. But the midfield that you typically have, especially now with Sobo at right back, you don't have that sort of quick movement in midfield. You only get it from Wirtz, and you don't have it from McAllister or Gravenberch. Especially this year, you don't have it from McAllister or Gravenberch. Yeah. Everything is so slow through that midfield that it doesn't have that buildup that you probably want to see. So I hate to keep trying to make excuses for the manager, because at some point, there's a lot he has to answer for.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to seem like he can do no wrong, because I'm not in that boat either. But I just don't think that he's been given a fair enough chance to see what he wants to do with who's available. That's it.
Well, you have convinced Chris. He says he wants Slot for next season with another summer of transfers and injured players back. One down, 100 million to go. I guess my thing is, that's my question to you. Do you think it's just taking this long to put the plan in place, or the initial plan they had was just not working, hence the results? So we had to come up with a new plan, and that's why it's still taking time to put it in place. Because I feel like you make a plan of, this is how we're going to play, right? And you look at like last season and you make your plan based on that. And now you start this season, Mo is definitely not the same Mo, right? He's not, like getting you those goals and, like creating as much where he wins you games when things are kind of in a deadlock or whatever. That's for one. And two, it goes really under the radar, but that midfield has really gone down a lot. And Gravenberch is one name that's never mentioned, but I feel like he's gone down a lot. And when he's in his best, you can kind of tell how that midfield is much better. I know everybody blames McAllister. The only thing I feel about McAllister is I really love his play overall. I just don't. It feels like he's playing on a different gear than Wirtz is, right? Like Wirtz is the one who's stepping on the gas and he keeps stepping on the brake because he wants it somewhere in the middle. And that's like a disconnect that I see there. Like the two of them together are not working as well. If it did, really, that's a really deadly duo over there in terms of like passing ability. I mean, the pass he put into like Mo yesterday, for example, and stuff, like Mac has that in him. Do you think we had to change the plan? Because what was there last year really did not translate to this year, and you couldn't just add pieces in because the last year thing freaking fell apart.
Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that one anymore, to be honest.
Was anything if you said, well, Graves got that, like if you did like a group project over here, you're like, Mateusz will do that, this guy will do that, but then if you're dropping the ball, we're like, well, yeah, he never drops the ball, though. We didn't count on that. Now we got to do a whole different plan. That's what I feel like what's happening more than anything else.
Drop from everyone else impacting the rest of the team.
Yes. Essentially, to the point where a couple of weeks ago, I was like, how is this that the new guys look so much better than the old guys? I think we were talking about it on the Monday Night podcast, too. It was like weird where the new guys looked like literally, like they came in, like how do you do like pickup games and like these guys just came in. Well, yeah, you guys just came in fresh. We already played a game. That's what it looks like. Like the old guys already played a game and these guys just came in. They're like, let's play. And it looks like there's like more energy to it. Maybe there's more positivity to it. Maybe we're a bit more biased because we're looking at the new guys in a different light. I know what it is, but it just feels like overall, not in every scenario, but overall, I get that sense.
There's also the age old, they have more to play for in the sense of they haven't won the trophies that the other players have won.
That's
Like
fair.
sometimes you get that the year after winning a championship, a title, a cup, whatever it is in any sport, it's always difficult to go back out and win it again because it takes so much out of you, right? And for those players who have done it, who have been there and done it, that the emotions and the physical toll of that sometimes is a bit too much, right? Whereas the new players coming in, they haven't tasted that. Wirtz, he had the Bundesliga title, right? The undefeated season. He hasn't done it in the Premier League. Ekitike hasn't tasted it. Kirkez obviously hasn't had it. So it's one of those things where you probably see the fight in it translate a bit better on the pitch because they haven't been there and done that. There almost maybe is a bit of arrogance of some of the players who were there saying, well, this worked last year and I don't need to put in more than I did last year because it worked. And now that things aren't working as well, they're not really going into that next gear to come back to where that was. And now they're suffering from that. So it might just be, again, the pitfalls of their own success is where we're at, where there was such a successful season last year to now the lows of where we are now.
Yeah, that's fair. That difficult second album, says Chris. And then Tony has the nerve to talk shit about Benrahma. What? The brunette was still there. Second, third, fourth album doesn't matter. So that's all that matters over there back in the day. Godfather 2. So there's a lot of like good sequel things. Speaking
and it happens so rarely, right? I mean that's and that's the thing. That's the whole point now is that it doesn't happen very often. So,
but the brunette was still there in Benrahma, so there's always that. And that was I was actually kind of disappointed. First of all, what a horrible game overall.
Unless you like defense. Game. Unless you like defense.
Even if you like defense, it was like so. It wasn't like, oh, this is great defense. Nobody can do anything. Like one side could not do anything. I could have quarterbacks the page, or it looked like I was quarterback in the pitches yesterday. It's like it's happening so fast. But the halftime thing, I am not a massive Bunny fan. I was actually disappointed. You're more like a pop culture guy. Well, you're younger, first of all. That I was kind of shocked that I did not know any of the songs. I thought at least one of them I'd be like, oh yeah, I've heard it in, because I listen to like, mixes and stuff like that. Like it was in a mix or something like that. Even if I'm not listening, I was kind of disappointed. I was like, man, I don't know any of these, like none of them at all.
I don't know. I recognized all of them because maybe it is a generational thing. I don't know.
You recognize all of them, really? All of them?
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, like not one.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the most streamed artists across the world, Timucin. So yeah,
honestly, the only thing, like Chris is talking about it, the only enjoyment I was getting it is as I was watching, I could feel the rage of many. That was giving me more joy than what I was watching, because I didn't understand what I was watching in some ways, because obviously I don't speak the language, and I didn't know any of the songs. So you're like, oh, it's this one, oh, it's that one, or something like that. So it just kind of like watching it, just feeling the rage and taking the enjoyment out of that.
But beyond the music, I think the message, especially at the end, there's nothing you can argue against that message.
Oh,
right? So
they will argue.
Yes, they will argue, but there shouldn't be the message that was on the screen at the end of the end of the halftime show is one that shouldn't be argued. Like you shouldn't look at that and go, "Oh yeah, there's something wrong with that." There isn't. And I think the people who are going to be the most angry about it are the ones who ended up watching Kid Rock lip syncing an entire show. So it's not going to bother me in the slightest. I saw some clips of that performance, so to speak, and yeah, it was as good as you would expect it to be, and as pitiful as you would expect it to be as well.
Were there like an abundance of flags everywhere, or?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, yeah.
Flag shorts and flag shirts. I haven't seen it, but that's what I kind of like envision. Like I think full flag outfits, like Captain America.
My favorite part was JD Vance sitting there like head bobbing, and then his wife right next to him, looking like she's going through an existential crisis of, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. This is the worst decision I've ever made in my life. Because you could just see the strain on her face as she's just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. So that was great.
I have not seen it. Yeah, it's, like I say, I kind of like watched that, and I was like when it was out, I was like, okay, like kind of a deal. The Lucy says, I need to get in touch with my Espanol side. Caliente. That's
Ooh.
you like that, don't you? And the rest is mostly food that I know in Spanish, tacos and enchiladas. Yeah, but like I say, I was more getting enjoyment in the fact that people were getting angry probably just watching that. Yeah, like the end, the whole thing was good, but I was like, yeah, the end was really great, but how many people stuck out to see this part of it anyway? Kind of a deal, people who are not going to watch it. But yeah, overall, like a horrible game. Maybe I was already like semi irked from like the morning anyway, but yeah, I was like, ugh. Like I dislike both teams anyway, so it was more like is that an option? And bad play was the only option. And you know, the funny thing is, that wasn't like we literally, I'm not even exaggerating. We discussed this for 30 seconds with Angie. We were like, is that Ricky Martin? I'm not even making this shit up. I was like, is that Ricky Martin? And she's like, I think so. And then we literally had to be like, she's like, yeah, it is. I'm like, is it? Yeah, I think it is. So that took quite some time to figure out over here. I'm actually more familiar with Daddy Yankee songs than I am with, maybe that's why.
I mean, that's 20 years ago, so.
You know what? Go to hell. That's forget Enrique. This is I've seen his dad play.
Oh my
what
God.
a goalie he was, baby. No, I think I actually saw that, and I don't even remember. I just know he was a goalie. To be fair, I don't think I only know him as the dad as a singer, not as a goalie. But I'm sure there's somebody in this chat. What was his dad's name?
I don't know. That's beyond my time.
Okay, here's another one that I was like, first of all, I thought Jessica Alba was a lot older, but regardless, she's like in her 40s. Because I was like, is that Jessica Alba or like a young chick who looks exactly like Jessica Alba in there? And it was Jessica Alba. How has she stayed looking the same way like, has she found the cure to aging that we're not aware of? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's Hollywood. I mean, I think that's sometimes the cure is finding Hollywood. She's 44, so I just looked it up. I don't know off the top.
I had to look it up yesterday too. I was gonna say I could have like rattled it up just because I googled it yesterday, but it looked like she was the same, like literally like the same Jessica Alba. I was like, how has she stayed?
I think
exactly the same.
Yeah, Chris is
I'm
saying,
complaining.
Chris is saying the Hollywood program. I feel like between the ages of like 25 and 50, you look the exact same, and then because of all the work that's done in between 25 and 50, after you hit that, it's just like, whoa, what happened to you now, kind of thing. So it just it goes in waves.
They only eat dust and vitamin supplements. Yeah, she has not aged. Abdurrahim is in the house. Good morning, sir. He said, let's not. We did that for like 50 minutes already. And yes, we were accused of many things. Look at J-Lo and Shakira.
Okay,
I'll do that now.
Oh no.
Google, here I come. To be fair, Shakira is a lot younger than J-Lo. Right?
Shakira's 49.
J-Lo has to be like 60 or something.
J-Lo is 56.
Speaking of, I'm getting close to J-Lo. It's birthday bash tomorrow.
Hey, look at you.
I know.
The big old 4 or 5.
Somehow I don't have the same aging process as Jessica Alba. I don't know how that's happening. Maybe I gotta go eat dust and vitamins myself or whatever. But yeah, we're doing local festivities tonight. So actually, Gally is going to be hosting tonight's podcast. Kazi is going to be with them, talking about slots out from the get-go.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Monday night Kazi.
Do tune in for that, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Gally, Bickler, and Kazi is going to be on tonight. Yeah, I will be missing tonight's some local festivities. And then tomorrow, the day of the birthday, actually, we're going to be doing Chicago festivities because Jasmine obviously is still in Milwaukee, so we're gonna meet with her. Actually, you missed this bash, but we're gonna go to the Turkish joint that I took Bickler and Gally and them and Ryan, who's usually in the chats with after the American Scouts petting zoo, which will happen in Milwaukee this year. So there's that. If you want to get a glimpse of that action in the background of the wedding, we'll be doing that. So come on, Abdurrahim, join the crowds. Well, tonight you can talk all the all the slot out conversation you can handle will probably happen tonight. And like I say, I am not really blaming people who are slot out. The only people that I don't, and that's not a huge percentage, I don't think. I hope not. But the only part of the slot out people I do not like are people who I can literally feel them in pain when the team wins. Because that's what gets to me, when you would rather be right than Liverpool win because your ego gets in the way. And that's a pretty huge crowd that will never like to admit it. But that's the crowd that I am not that big on, is people who are, like say, like find excuses, or the players bailed them, or this and that and stuff like that, just because they don't want to. That's the crowd that otherwise, if you have like, I look at the results, there are legitimate results, reasons for you to be slot out or whatever. But so are we still slot in?
Oh, we just talked for an hour. We don't need to talk about this anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm still slot in for the rest of the season,
for the Champions League, right? He's
winning the Champions League.
He's going to hold up the Champions League trophy, right? We're going to have Van Dijk do a little Hendo shuffle, and all will be well in Liverpool. It's it. Book it. I mean, hey, you heard it here first several months ago.
Chris says there is more and more fans each match just expecting us to get beat. Yeah, I think that's probably that's probably the worst part, Chris, is the fact that, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I was worried the moment it happened. I was worried even when we were up 1-0 that late in the game. That's not a good thing. I mean, look, I worry as a lifestyle. That's what I normally do anyway, but I worry even more than I normally do now, because I feel like, and I think that's how they play. Sadly, they think that. Doesn't matter what I think. I worried freaking tomorrow it's going to be 52 years. But yeah, I worried for like more than half a century over here. But I feel like the players worry, and you can kind of tell. And I think that's the part that I get annoyed with a little bit. People putting that too much on slot. I think it's a little bit on the players' mindset right now as well. So Abdurrahim is out. Tony is in. Abdurrahim is already bringing Xavi. And look, I'm not big on this whole Xavi thing. It will still feel really icky to me if Slot was out. But I would not, if Slot is going to be out, I don't want the stupid interim things like, oh, let's bring Stevie G in. Like, let's not do anything stupid. If there's a new manager coming in that they're like, this is the guy now that's going to take over this project, I'd be all for it, regardless of who it is. I just don't want like an interim crap.
I hear Michael Carrick is available.
And he can give you the bounce, people. Okay, what are you up to today? It's the day off, even though you were bitching before we went on air about Mondays, even though it's your day off somehow, but...
Well, I have to coach now. I mean, it's not that's not fully off now. Today is actually a lighter day. There isn't much outside of coaching, so just doing that. And until then, I'm just gonna be bumming it around, and I'm gonna be singing you a happy birthday every hour on the hour.
Well, you'll be
all the way
tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Every hour on the hour from midnight.
Oh, until then.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Wishing the happy birthday. I don't know. Anybody who's around my age knows you rather go undercover and under the radar on these birthdays as much as possible. As you get older, it's not like your 8th birthday over here. But have a great week, everybody. Have a great day. I'll be back Wednesday morning with Audrey. Obviously, we'll do the pre-match for Sunderland, which is another freaking tough game, and now you have no Szoboszlai. But the gang will be on tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Do tune in for that. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.